Welcome to the AAPEX webinar series. My name is Kelly Denman. I'm with AAPEX Event Management. This is the final webinar concluding our webinar series that leads up to our in-person event. AAPEX 2024 will take place at the Venetian Expo and Caesars Forum in Las Vegas, Nevada, Tuesday, November 5th through Thursday, November 7th. In preparation for the event, be sure to check out apexshow.com for all event details and schedules and exhibitor listings. As a friendly reminder, attendees' mics will be muted for the duration of this webinar, and this webinar will be recorded and available later this week on apexshow.com. Today's webinar is When and Why Shops Invest in Their Business, and it is my pleasure to introduce today's moderator, Rick White, president at 180Biz.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I'm pretty lucky here. I'm sitting in a room. They always say, be the dumbest person in a room, and I feel like I'm there today, so I'm excited. I'd like to have each of you introduce yourselves real quick, if you would. Greg, I'll start with you as you're next to me here on the camera.
Sure. My name is Greg Bunch, and I own 6 auto repair shops in Colorado. But my full-time job is the CEO of Transformers Institute. We're a coaching, consulting, training mastermind company that helps auto repair shop owners take their business to the next level. And so I'm just honored to be here and be a part of this. And I think it's a great question, right? What are the investments that people are making and what needs to be made? And as we'll be talking today, the landscape of this industry is definitely changing.
Amen. Amen. Eric, you're next, sir.
Good morning. I'm Eric Carlson from Irvine's Auto Repair and Grand Rapids Hybrid and EV. We're in Grand Rapids, Michigan, right on the west side of the state. We've been here 30 years. But I agree that we made a fairly significant investment in our business 2 years ago. If someone had asked me 10 years ago, would I put that kind of money in, I would have never believed them. But anyway, so we truly investing in the future. And to Greg's point, it is. I don't know of any other industry or business and that is changing as quickly as ours is. And so I'm really looking forward to it. So I hope I have something to add to this too. So thank you.
I'm really glad you're here. And then, of course, Andy, last but not least, my friend.
Hi, Andy Bizub. I own 3 European repair shops in the Chicago area. This is my second career. I've been in this industry for 10 years. I came out of a 35-year career in the financial services industry, in which I experienced massive change. So I'm really, really comfortable with change, and started with 1 repair shop, had no intention of having more than 1, and now I have 3. But the subject of when and how to invest is particularly interesting to me. So I was happy to be a part of this panel.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you being here. So let's just jump right into it. I have a lot of questions, and I'm hoping we get as many of them in as we possibly can. So, I think it's pretty clear investing in people is a super important strategy. Greg, how do you identify the right talent to invest in, and what strategies have you found effective for developing that talent?
So yeah, 2 great questions. Identifying, I can say that I don't bat 1,000, and I would say anybody that does is a liar, right? So we do our best. But I think, probably all of us have used the traditional methods to finding the right people. Used to be Craigslist, Indeed, different recruiters. There's all different ways to look for talent. But I think we could all agree some of the best talent that we've got have been referrals from people that we work with right now, right? They can identify, hey, there was an A player that I used to work with. They're going to love what we do over here. And so I've been very blessed that, finding the right person, the right A player seems to attract the other A players that come to them. So, and not everybody has that privilege, right? But I think if, there's a saying, if A players will only work for A players. And so once you get that one in and they're able to see what kind of organization you're running, they're going to want to work around other A players. And if they know them, they're going to want to come over there. So as far as attracting and getting the right talent on board, I think that's a big part of it. And maybe that first A player does have to come through Indeed or something else, but checking their references and really spending a lot of time with them. And then your second question, as far as development, that was your second question,
Yeah, what
second piece of
strategies
it?
have you found effective in developing that talent?
Um, you know, my attorney says whenever I ask a question, I'm not on the clock. She always says it depends. And so I would say in this answer, it also depends based on, what talents are they bringing to the table? What are they looking to grow in? Um, and, I think all of us, whether it's a consulting company or a repair shop, we have the way that we want to do business. So, getting them educated on the foundations of the way we want to do business. But then I think it really goes back to having one-on-one time with them and understanding what their dreams, talents are. Where do they want to grow professionally? Where do they want to be in 3 to 5 years? And I think a lot of us focus on, hey, their deficiencies. But what I've learned, and I'm not an expert at this, is really, okay, they're deficient in some areas. We can work around that. But what are their real strengths? And then trying to put rocket fuel on their strengths and going, okay, how do we really get them in there doing their superpower, which is probably what you hired them for.
And why do you think it's so important to invest in this area?
More and more studies about what people want. They want a career, they want purpose, they want to be in an organization that's growing. And I think finding those people that want to have professional development are the people that we want on our teams. And so, how many really, really good technicians are going to go to work at an old, worn out shop that the owner's 70 years old, he's looking at retiring. All the equipment's old. Nobody's got ASC certifications. They're not training anybody. Like, why would a young technician want to hook their wagon to that, right? Where if they could go to work for a place that, hey, we send people to training, we send them to AAPEX, we send them to other industry events. We have online training components. We've got, a mentorship program where you can work underneath one of our master technicians. We've got a career development, so if you want to be a shop foreman, you want to run a shop one day, we've got a career path for you. Who's he
Awesome.
going to pick, right? He's going to pick the one that he sees a future with, or she.
Exactly. Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you. Andy,
Yes.
talk to me about KPIs.
So in the context of figuring out when to invest, how to invest, when it's the right time, you got to have your KPIs in check. You got to have a command of them. Basically,
Andy,
have
what
your
is
processes
it?
down.
What is a KPI? Just for somebody that might not know.
Key performance indicator.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So I mean, it's your gross profit. There's your net profit. All these different numerical variables that you keep track of within your business, and it basically, it comes down to basically an Excel spreadsheet of what your business is doing. How is your business performing on those levels, and then also, your internal satisfaction. How are your people performing? How do they view their own position within your company? So you get those KPIs and those processes, and you really have to track those. And coming as a neophyte coming into this business 10 years ago, I did go with a coaching concern that did teach me the basics about KPIs. And then after we moved on from that, now we internally track all of our own KPIs. All my 3 co-owners, we're always on top of all of those metrics. So that really gives you the view on what your business is doing.
So what KPIs should they focus on, do you think? And how do you know when they're sustainable enough where they can actually make an investment?
So that's a good question. I would say the most basic way that they are sustainable, you're at a sustainable level where you're ready to invest in and expand your business. Do you have net profit? Okay. So first of all, you've got to be profitable. Okay, you can't be investing if you're running in a negative cash flow environment. And start off with what's your gross profit? What's your gross profit target? What's your net profit target? What are your expenses? There's a lot of different ways. I mean, it's different for every shop, every environment. Euro shops are going to be different than general repair. So there's no number I can throw out there and say, hey, this is the number that is going to make sense for you. But you need to be running a profitable shop to be able. You need to have those profits to be able to reinvest into your business. When I took over in 2014, I took over a failing shop that was in a negative net profit situation, and that was a turnaround job, and I spent about 18 months turning that ship around, and then within a couple of years, that's when we went to the second shop because we had turned profitable and we had enough profit to launch a second shop and move on.
Awesome. Thank you. Eric,
Yes, sir.
you talked about making a huge investment in your company a couple years ago.
Yes, that's for sure.
And
Well,
I know you want to be taking care of your foundation. Can you elaborate on what you consider to be the essential elements of a solid business foundation?
Kind of piggybacking on what Andy and what Greg had been mentioned, but Andy, since we just talked about that, we were once we linked up with coaching. Oh shoot, it's probably been 12 years now or whatever. That was the key thing, having them show us the specific numbers, understand what they meant, understand the industry thresholds you should hit to that would be expected targets that might not seem attainable to you then, but they certainly are. And once you understand them, so once we got our feet underneath us there, and then started to really track those, of course, not necessarily daily, but obviously every week, seeing to Andy's point about net profit, how much money are we able to average that out over the long haul? Are we putting 10 to 20% in the bank? Are we able to do that consistently? And once we got our feet underneath us, where we were understood the numbers, so we knew what to charge, we knew what to track, we knew how to hold people accountable from a productivity standpoint, we were able to not necessarily, well, we were saving more money than we'd ever saved once we got that. But once we did that, and we did this for a few years, then we were able to go to the bank and show them paper, our all of our financials that made perfect sense to them. Here's our growth. We're getting 10 to 15% growth virtually every year. It's not going through the roof straight, but it's not plateaued, or certainly not negative cash flow. And that made it very easy. The once we had, but that took some time, and it took an understanding of those numbers, and what our plan and our long-term plan was to be here far past when, I mean, I'm 60, almost 68 next week. And well, I don't know, I want to stay condensed, so I'm not going to go off on that. But it was important for us to, if nothing else, to bring to the bank. We felt comfortable then we can afford this. We can pull this off. It's proven. I mean, I don't know how badly it would have to go off the rails to fail. Just not. We've proved over too many years that this is not going to be the case if we continue with our processes and procedures that we have.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. Um, what about customer experience or client experience? Greg,
Spills.
what
I was gonna
specific
say, didn't think it was me.
Greg, what specific investments have you found to be most impactful in improving customer loyalty or client loyalty?
So I want to just, if I could touch back on what Andy said real quick, and it's gonna
Yeah,
relay
absolutely.
into what you're talking about here. And Eric talked about it too, that there could be a position where maybe the shop is not profitable, and in order for them to survive, they're going to have to find the money to invest in training or coaching to get them right. If somebody doesn't know what they don't know, investing a couple $1,000s a month into a program may be the thing that gets them to that next level, right? So
Mhm.
I want to be careful to say, hey, if you're not making money, then don't invest in your company. But maybe that's something that could, be the demise, right? That if you don't know what you don't know, maybe getting that initial help. So, which goes into, one of the biggest things I think for the customer experience. And I work with, Rick, I know you do too, work with a lot of shops that if you ask them to really define what their customer experience is, it's different, right? They don't have it real clear. And then if you go down and you talk to their advisors and managers, it gets even less clear. And so taking the investment to really map out what is that customer journey from, from the telephone call to the online appointment to they pick up their car and they leave, what happens after they leave, every one of those steps, right, should be consistent if you've got, multiple shops or multiple service advisors. But that takes a big investment, right? We use a program called Trainual where, each of those steps within there's about 25 steps that we've mapped out that is going to make a positive or negative on their customer experience. And if there's specific training around each one of them, and that's just part of it, right? Trainual is kind of a learning management system that we use, but there needs to be native training. There needs to be role playing. There needs to be, hiring the right people, right? Herbert Keller from Southwest, I don't, he was asked, why is everybody at Southwest so nice? He goes, well, we don't train people to be nice. We hire nice people, right? So even goes before that to your customer experience is hiring people that are going to have a natural way of, they're going to want to take care of people. So, number one, defining it, and number two, building a training around it so that you can have consistency. And then, like Andy said, with KPIs, having tracking it. How do you know those customers are happy? Whether that's checking your Google reviews, or you've got another method of doing a survey to your customer base. But I think if for all of us, right, technology aside, a big investment we all need to make is really honing in. What do customers want? Are we addressing those things, and are we training our team to deliver?
Okay, thank you. This is kind of to the group, and as I'm listening to you talk, I'm kind of coming up with either we've got a business like Andy had where it was, bleeding, right? And we got to do triage and figure out how to turn it around. We have current conditions where we want to make them better, like Greg, you've been talking about. But then there's also growth in future technologies, Eric, like you did. So I guess my question is how do you know when to invest in what area, right? Like, when do I look at it and say, okay, this is broke, I got to fix it, or I want to make it better, or I want to be able to see the trends that are coming, and when do I invest in those things, right? So how do you know when to prioritize one over the other? And again, this is for each of you to just give a brief answer on. I'd like to see it. Andy, why don't you go first?
Sure. Probably a great example would be EVs, right? And this is something that we have been mulling over and looking at for an extended period of time. When do we make the leap and start offering full-on service of EVs? We do work on EVs right now. We work on Taycans and Teslas, but that's mostly all performance upgrades that we do for those individual cars. But when do we get to the point where, as a Euro shop, we are going to say we can take in your Taycan for a full service, exactly the same as a dealer. We can take in your Tesla for full service, just the same as you would have from a Tesla service operator, right? And that's a tough nut to crack, because I'll confess, I was one of the first ones that took the leap with the hybrid shop years and years ago. But we could see that EVs were coming on very strong, and we took a risk. We ended up about breaking even before the hybrid shop kind of folded as an entity, but that was a calculated risk that we took at that time. It cost us a little bit of money, or we were right around break even, but I still think it was the right move to do. So you got to keep up with technology. You have to keep up with what your customers needs. What are your customers' demands? How many of our Euro customers have an EV as a second car, third car in their garage? And we are right in the process right now of deciding when we are going to make that final leap beyond just doing performance upgrades for EVs and going fully into Tesla and Euro EVs. So you got to do your research. You got to keep your eye on the market. And primarily keep an eye on what your customers' needs are. That's going to tell you when you need to make that investment.
Okay, awesome. Eric, what about you? Because this seems like this question's right up your alley with what you've been going through.
Well, and I think everyone, certainly on this panel, and hopefully people listening, I think we have that entrepreneurial bent. So we're looking at things maybe slightly different than the guy that just shows up working a punch press 8 hours a day and goes home. That we're looking for the next shiny penny kind of thing. And it was probably 15 years ago. It not just occurred to me, but it had been bothering me that we were just a shop amongst shops. We, in the public eye, we all looked exactly the same, and of course we all think that our shop's the best shop, and we should, but that we have to come up with something different. Different. We want to separate ourselves from the herd, and I started just watching how many Priuses were driving by. You'd see maybe one a day. Well, then you start seeing three or four or five a day. And I was to be perfectly honest, I was obviously a technician slash owner. So I was working 5 days a week in the shop. There was no sitting in the office, but I just got bored out of my mind working on the same gas car coming in. So when the hybrid started to really, in a sense, kind of started getting a little bit more market share, I thought, well, let's get trained. And so, it took a while. It was 6 months to a year. We finally, got the proper training and hung out our shingle for it. It was slow going at first. I told people I just hope I get one a month, you know, and then well, now I want to get one a week, now one a day, and I roughly 50% of our repair work now is hybrids. I mean, but we've had a long time in the market here. I guess at almost 15 years. So but I think that I don't want to say it was forward thinking, but that how can we better serve, again, Randy said, our customers that are we have two Toyota shops in the city of 350,000 people, two Toyota dealerships. Um, we got more damn work out of those Toyota dealerships from customers that would call us from the waiting room at the dealership. What's it going to cost? And it was always the hybrid battery. What's it going to cost for this hybrid battery pack? And at first, no, don't never get about prices. Well, it quickly learned, give them out a price for that thing. I mean, we're putting the new Toyota battery in. So anyway, we got a lot of work that way and originally, but it took some, I don't even want to call it a risk. I mean, people have contended it's expensive to get into that. It's not at all. I mean, it was half the equipment we already had. So, but I think it was that watching out for what your customers are going to need and embracing that technology. And I think the techs that we have, like Greg was saying about how do you hire people? Well, you don't hit 100%, but we hire people that have a technical bent to them. They have a passion for, I don't want to say complicated, but technology. They enjoy and embrace the technology. That's one of the first things we interview for is what kind of person are you? You got to be a nice person or you don't even get to step two. But what's your passion, your future? What do you want to see? What are you happy with working on? Because if you're saying, well, I want another 10 years in this business and I'm retiring, well, you're never going to get to the next step here either. So once we've established that, they love working on them. And none of those, the three techs, well, four now, never worked on hybrids before they came to us.
Thank you.
Nothing.
I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you. Greg, how about you?
Rick, I think it's a great question because, on one side, right, when people ask Henry Ford if what does your customer want? He says they want a faster horse, right, or a faster wagon. So he was an innovator and said, hey, no, I think once I build a car, people are going to want it. And obviously he was right. But then, there's the other component of it. A lot of us have gone down the road, invested in ADAS equipment. I've got a couple clients that have, specific ADAS facilities. And they're finding that, hey, it's that they're, ADAS is a whole nother business, right? It's more business to business. They've had to add, programming cars, adding keys, mobile versus in person. So, I call them the early adopters, and all of them would say, yeah, I think there's still a future there, but it's going to take, like Eric was saying, it takes time to build that reputation, build up that side of the business, and it's going to cost a lot of money. And I appreciate that because they're early adopters, right? They're the ones that are going out there making that risk. And we have we're doing some ADAS, we're doing some hybrid work, but we're not, full blown like Eric is. But to me, it also goes back opposite what Henry Ford said. What Andy said is, what is your customer demand, right? The areas that we live in just don't see as many electric vehicles. If I was in downtown Denver, something like that, I could see moving towards that. So I think the other component of it is there's still, even though, like Eric said, we're a repair shop among hundreds of repair shops, but are we really, really doing the basics really, really well? And to me, if you're doing that really well, you're taking great care of the customer. There's a lot of general repair work still out there. And I think that's the first place to make that investment. And then once you get that mastered, you got your SOPs, you got your KPIs, you got your training, you got your marketing, you got your accounting, you got a really dialed in business that operates well. Then now it's time to start looking at, okay, what are those shiny pennies, right? Between ADOS, electric, hybrid, adding those kind of things to the business. But I just see too many entrepreneurs jump to the shiny penny and start working on a new project when they don't have their foundations done. So long answer, Rick, is the first place to make an investment is in your fundamentals and making sure that you got that dialed in, and then start looking at the other things. That's my opinion.
Yeah, I think there's an awful lot of shop owners in our industry that are looking for the quick buck, right? And the reality is this is a long-term play, right?
Yep.
It's this industry, it's not the stock market where you're going to make an investment in something and get a gigantic return immediately. So, Andy, I got one for you here. I think it is right up your alley. How do you decide between investing in technology versus investing in people? Part one. And are there situations where one should take priority over the other?
All you're always investing in people first, because the people, it doesn't matter if you have the technology or don't have the technology, your people are going to be running the technology. People are your ultimate investment. They're your absolute number one asset. You can have the most beautiful, well-equipped shop, but if you don't have the right people in it, you have an issue. So people is absolutely our number one investment. Training, pay, compensation, um, culture, building that culture, because your people are your customer facing. I don't want to be impersonal. Your customer facing asset. Your customer is not going to see the great new scan tool, the beautiful alignment machine, the new AC refrigeration machine, but your customer deals with your people. And so 100%, your people are your first investment. Technology is great. We love it. We have to stay up to date with what our the needs of the vehicles are. But absolute people, that's not even it's not even close. People is number one.
Okay, awesome. I'm going to put this out to the three of you. I hope we can agree that our industry is being peppered with emerging technologies. From a driver perspective, the interface between them and the vehicle has not changed all that much in the last 50 or 60 years. There's still a gas pedal, a brake pedal, there's a key or an ignition button to push, steering wheel. I mean, there's not much that's changed, but the technology behind the vehicle is just astronomically, exponentially growing. So, my question to you is, with all this emerging technology, how do you determine the right time to invest in the training and equipment? Like, what market indicators are you looking for?
Well, for at our shop, we just keep with the training continuously. I mean, it's about every other month we get a virtual one. Happens to be John Thornton does a lot of that stuff, but others that we'll just sign on and keep training with the stuff. And if it's something that they don't cover, which is hard to, there's very little they don't cover. Uh, I'll reach out and find out the answers to certain things, but we don't want to wait until my technician is stumped on something, has no idea how something works, and go, okay, let's see if we can find out how to fix this thing. We try to, we try to cover that well in advance of that. We're certainly not by any stretch perfect, but I think my techs also know if there's something that they don't know, come see me or my service writer or whomever, and we'll find out the answer to
Okay,
I'll
guys,
I'll,
jump
I'll
in.
go. Sure, I'll go next. I'll give you a specific example, and it happens to be we do about 60% Porsche here, and then all the rest of the German brands. Um, when a new model comes out at Porsche, like when the Macan came out, at about year 2 of that model year, that's about the time that we're going to look at getting the latest Porsche factory scan tool. Because for the first 2 years, those Macans are going back to the dealer for warranty service all the time. And even if they come to us for an oil change, if we find something that can be covered by warranty, we send them right down the street to the Porsche dealer where we buy over $300,000 a year in parts. So the dealer loves us and we have a great relationship with them, and that just solidifies the customer experience. So for a new model car, that's what we usually look at. About 3 years is warranty coverage. We're going to be looking at about the second year to start collecting up the equipment and getting advanced training for that new model. Same thing with the Taycan EV from Porsche, right? Those are all still under warranty. They're all for any kind of real mechanical problems. They're all going back to the dealer right now anyway, so we wouldn't even be working on them. We're getting ready in the next year or two to start working on those fully front to back.
Yeah, and that was going to be my answer. 2 to 3 years. I mean, that's the good news about being in the independent market, right? We can see what's coming down the road. A dealership, right? They just get something new dropped off that's literally nobody's ever seen before. So we do get a heads up on what's coming out.
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
get some intel from those dealers, from the dealer techs. They tell us what to watch out for.
Well, for 300
Yeah,
grand a
I
year,
thought
you want
about trading in my I've got a older Toyota truck and trading it in for a new Tacoma, and I've had like 4 people say no, they're having problems, like
Yeah,
the new model,
yeah,
like okay, I'm gonna wait.
yeah.
So that's one of the advantages that we have.
Yeah, and relationship wise, that's why it is really great if you can develop a relationship with your dealer supplier, then you can get those heads up from those dealer techs. Hey, this is the thing. This is the thing that's going wrong with the first gen of this,
Yep, absolutely. Excellent. So I've got another question for all of you. So sometimes as technicians, because we have the title of in our heads that I can fix anything, we end up with what I call ego purchases. This is where you buy something for a lot of money and end up not ever using it really, right? I have a couple of examples personally that I won't take time to share now. How do you balance staying ahead of the curve with ensuring a reasonable return on investment? Greg, I'll start with you first.
I'm guilty as charged, Rick, just like all of us. And we think that, hey, if I'm doing one of these, I'm going to do a bunch of them. And I think we probably have tool rooms in the back that we use those things a couple times. So I'm going to be a hypocrite in what I'm going to say, because I know the right answer, but I'm not going to say I've always followed the right answer. And that is data-driven decisions, right? And as shops grow, right, those decisions have more zeros attached to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I remember being scared to death to buy some BG flush equipment, and I was getting them for half price. And they said, okay, if you buy a certain amount of this, you get the machines for half price, but if you don't, you're going to owe this money. And I'm like, I'm never going to sell that much. But I put a plan in place of, instead of doing an oil change, it was an oil change with an MOA. It was just, where transmission flushes and all that, they just, we added the fluids in, and we blew away the records. So that was a gut feel, but the financial investment made me put a program together to sell more BG services, right? I talk to shop owners all the time. They've got $100,000 alignment machine that's used twice or 3 times a week. And does that mean that was a bad investment? No, it means they made the investment in the equipment, but they didn't make an investment in the training to get people to, do what it takes to fill that alignment rack, whether that's marketing, sales, part of the inspection process. Because, why does a Firestone have 12 bays and 2 of them have alignment racks and there's never a car nut on it? Well, they know how to sell and utilize that equipment and make money off the alignment machine. So, if we're going to buy, hybrid equipment, we're going to buy alignment equipment, we're going to buy servicing equipment. It's not just we're buying it for that one-off, but we need to think, okay, how many cars will this work on? And do we need to put a sales process or a marketing process in place to utilize this equipment for what it's intended for? And if we don't know, that's where networking, of, hey, who uses this machine and how do you sell it? Because I've been in shops that have, an inch of dust on their BG machines, and other ones they got two of them, right? Two alignment machines versus a dusty one. So I think that's the part is, if I'm going to make an investment, how am I going to actually utilize it?
Okay. Eric,
Yes, sir. What was the
what do
question
you,
again? I was too listening to Greg's answer. I'm going, I love that answer.
uh, my
I forgot
question
the damn
was,
question.
how do you avoid the ego purchases? How do you balance staying ahead of the curve with ensuring reasonable return? And the reason I brought that question up is, a year ago, 18 months ago, EV was the rage. Manufacturers going all in. And now you're seeing the manufacturers have backed way off. You're seeing hydrogen starting to come back up. Toyota's playing with hydrogen real heavy. And how do you, as an owner, how do you get it so that, you got Blu-ray and HD? Which one's the one you go after? I got a bunch of HD videos. I'm just telling you, I picked the wrong pony, right? So
Yes, you
how
did.
do you balance that curve, staying ahead of the curve, but at the same time, making sure you're going to get that investment, the return on
Well,
investment?
yeah, that's tough. One, like Greg said, if you said you didn't make a splurge purchase on something, you're a liar. But we try to keep that really in check. And it's kind of like that technician that's always borrowing a tool from the other guy. If you're borrowing it more than two or three times, you need to buy it yourself. So kind of look at a piece of equipment that, okay, maybe we can't do the timing chain job in this one-off car because we don't have the cam holding tools and whatnot. But we've got a big tool supplier in town, but it's going to be $500 for the set. Well, I'm gonna go look. Jesus, we've never seen that model car in here. We're gonna pass on it. But we would track that and go, that's the fourth one this year that's come in, and two of them needed chains. Well, now I go out and buy it. But you got to be disciplined. I'm very conservative. My wife is too. So, but I've told the technicians, you come up to me with a tool that you need. A shop tool. We buy all of that, of course, all that stuff. You just give me even a fairly solid plan. I'll take a look at it, but in all likelihood, I'll buy it, because they are also careful about what they ask for. And if by the time it comes to me to ask it, they probably really want it. So I hate to, sometimes I don't want to uh, rain on their parade, and maybe we are only going to use it once, but it's, a few $100. You go, okay, we'll get it. But usually they're pretty good about that. But I don't, the big purchases kind of stuff, like Greg, we tracked long before we got our alignment rack. We tracked how much we were subbing it all out. And once
Hmm.
it got up there to enough where we could easily cover the payment on the rack and whatnot per month, we just pulled the trigger on it then. And but we market it correctly.
Yep.
That rack will do two or three alignments a day. And so it's been well worth it to have. But you got to watch for that stuff and track it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Go ahead, Greg.
Oh, I was just going to add, it's not just equipment, but like I have seen some shops that have that millions of dollars. I was in a shop in Florida. Hopefully, it's still there after the hurricane. Like it was nicer than any dealership I've been in. Like so, the decor and how nice the shop, and it's a high-end Euro shop that we would all drool to have. But like the guy put literally $2 million into a nice building already. Like, is he ever really going to get that money out of that? So it's not just equipment, but our egos can get involved in how nice our waiting rooms are, how office space and all that. And it's like, yeah, I want to have nice stuff, but some people really go over the top with the marble and the granite and the, like, is this ever going to really, is that investment going to pay off? Right. So it's not just equipment, it's our egos get involved in what our buildings look like.
Yeah. The last thing we want shop owners to have to experience, right? Somebody once, as a joke, somebody once asked me, how do you make $1 million in auto repair? And I looked at them, smiled, and said, start with 2 million. So, um, you don't want that to happen. Andy, how about you on
So
this as far
yeah,
as,
great points from Eric and Greg. To that, I'll add, um, I love tools, but I'm also really conservative. So I've got both the yin and the yang. But we're also, I really stress collaboration in our shops. And to your point earlier, Rick, I do not want to be the smartest guy in the room. So it's a two-way street. I rely on the techs and to come to us saying, hey, we should consider this. But then I also bring up tools and machine and technology to them and get their opinion. I'm like, what do you think of this? Well, if how many of these do we see? How many of these do you think we could sell? Then I'll talk to our service writers and see, do we ever have any calls for this? So really kind of work together to see what are the needs. I want to be very well equipped, but I don't want that machine that I paid 12 grand for sitting in the corner collecting dust. And then the last thing I'll say is I really do establish the tie between investments, that money that the business has to spend is money that cannot be going towards your compensation or there's finite reserves. So just keep in mind there's finite reserves, and we want to send you to training. We want to send you out of town to put you on a trip to go to a training session somewhere. And we also want to have good equipment. So let's achieve a balance there.
Excellent. Thank you so much. All right, I
Yeah.
got 4 more questions.
Oh,
Go ahead,
okay.
Greg.
Oh, I was
Go
just
ahead.
going to say, I think Andy, and shame on us for not bringing this up, like we should have a budget, right? That if on our P&L, like, hey, this is a technology investment budget, X amount of our sales, and this should be a people development, coaching, training part of our, just build it into your P&L, because you're right, Andy. It's if like, oh, where's this money going to come from? Well, if we budget it, then that's where it comes from, and that's where that bucket, guys, I got 10 grand this year to buy something. Let's talk about what we want to buy, or save it up and do 20 next year, right? So, yep.
Okay. 4 more questions, 15 minutes. Okay.
You get the hint.
Lightning round.
Oh. So what we're going to do is see who can answer the question in the fewest number of words. Okay. All right. So, and each one of these are pointed, and then I have one for the group. So, Greg, I want to kind of transition this now from running the business to what are we going to do after? Right? What does after running the business look like? And you and Eric have both very different thoughts on this. So, as far as like an exit strategy, right? What are the most critical investments a shop owner should make to increase that business's value and attractiveness to a potential buyer?
Um, that's not a short answer. So I think we all know that there's a lot of people looking to buy shops, whether single locations, multiple locations. But the biggest thing that most investors are looking for is a self-sustained shop, right? That the owner does not have to be there day to day for it to work. That's going to increase the value of it. Do you have systems and processes? Um, do you have a deep database of repeat customers? Those are all things that buyers are looking for. And there's a lot of money out there looking for small businesses to invest in, and they don't want a fixer-upper, right? They want something that's running really well. And on the multi-store side, the multipliers just continue to go up. If you're going to get a 3x multiplier for a single EBITDA on a single store, if you got 6 stores, you could be a 6 or 8 multiplier. So, investing in growing the business to be multi-store, I'm seeing people retire with, more money than they ever dreamed of because they started out as technicians going the multi-store, get to 3, 4, 5 stores and then selling. So if somebody wants to go that route, there's probably no better way to spend their time and money than accelerating growth to that degree.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. Yeah, people don't want to buy a job, they want an investment, right?
Right.
And I think that's really important to think through if you're a shop owner today. Eric, you got a little bit of a different spin on this. You're all about the future for your daughter, your techs, your crew. So
Yeah.
how do you structure your investments to ensure long-term sustainability and career growth for your team?
Well, we've done well, certainly over the last 10 or 15 years. Once we got coached and did got far more profitable than we'd ever been, so we were able to look at that and go, well, we looked at what we put into the building, and the downside to dropping, well, what was over $1 million into it is, well, now I got the dang thing, if no one could afford to buy it, kind of thing.
Mm.
I shouldn't say no one could afford to buy it. They probably don't want to at that cost. And it really came down to a very personal thing for me. I did not want my daughter or my grandchildren, if they want to get into the business, I didn't want them having to work for somebody else that would, if they came in here, would could possibly fire them, change it so that it was, uh, they didn't like working here anymore. And we made promises to our technicians. None of them are over 40. They're, late 30s and one late 20s, but that our commitment was to get them here. You can spend as long as you want here, assuming we all get along, which we, hiring the nice people solve that. But you want to retire here, you can. So we did this. I was 66 when we did the expansion, and I thought, well, not my wife and I. We want this to be here another 30 years. I don't need to sell it. We make plenty of money. Our investments and other things have done very, very well. So I don't look at it as, oh, I gotta sell this thing so I can maximize that out and go to Tahiti. You know, Nothing's further from the truth. We really cared about the people that have given us a very, very good living, have trusted us to supply them with a job, and we want to see this forward for many, many years. And that's
Excellent.
just a different take on it.
All right. Thank you, Eric.
Mhm.
Andy,
Yep.
I know that financial opportunities are super, super important when it comes to investing, financing and stuff like that. How do you evaluate these opportunities, and what advice would you give to shop owners considering, these different the financing opportunities and such?
Sure. I mean, I'll give you a specific example. We go to Apex every year, and that we're going to go this year. We're going to buy a new alignment machine at the Hunter booth because at SEMA they always offer 0% financing for 12 months. So that's a layup. Um, that comes around every year, and I think almost every year in the last 7 years we bought something from Hunter. But even if we had to wait until SEMA because it's such a great deal, it's just you can't beat that deal. If you're going to get free money for a year, you take it. For a needed piece of equipment, not for an ego purchase. So those kind of deals will present themselves every once in a while. You got to jump on them when they're offered. You get a great financing terms on some equipment you need. Take the free money. Don't you might say, hey, I've got the money, I can pay it all cash right now. Why not pay it for 12 months? Split up those purchases. I mean, and then another thing, during COVID, one thing that I heard from a bunch of shop owners was, I'm not going to apply for PPP because, I don't want anything from the government. And I was telling these shop owners in groups, you better apply because everybody around you is applying. When the offer is out there, take the offer because all of your competitors are doing it. So when all your competitors get $200,000 in cash from a government program, whether it's a good government program or not, and you didn't do it, you're $200,000 behind all of your competitors. So you have to be opportunistic about purchases, about financing. Keep your eye on the details because it matters. It makes a big difference.
Awesome. Thank you. So now, because Apex is so, um, you know, vendor specific, right? We're going to be like, I'm going to be at Apex. I'm teaching a couple classes. Andy, you're going to be there, and Greg. We should get a beer. So one of the things that I really think this is a great environment for is, what role do manufacturers and wholesalers play in your decision making process for these new technology investments? Number one. And then number two, and I think it's actually a more important question, how can they better support shop owners in making informed decisions?
I'll grab that. To me, Apex it's the one opportunity that I get to go and see the stuff firsthand, touch and feel it, talk to a rep, hear from someone who has experience with the equipment, hear firsthand how everything operates, get the technical details. I can't get that from a magazine. I can't get that from reviews because reviews in magazines are generally always favorable. I've never seen an unfavorable review of a tool in a magazine. So Apex is just it's a must attend for me, because that is the opportunity I get. And we have a whole list of, we're going to check out, we're going to all these manufacturers' booths, we're going to check out these particular pieces, or we're looking for a new AC equipment for one of our shops. So we're going to visit a couple of the reps, a couple of the dealers. So it's an unparalleled opportunity to get them all in one spot. Just know your product. Be ready to talk about exactly, know your product top to bottom.
Greg.
Gosh, I don't want to get electrocute anybody, so I'll keep this broad, but I think there's a big disconnect between these manufacturers, suppliers, and who their customer really is. And I think they need to invest more in learning what we are looking for and what our needs are. Instead of telling us what our needs are, I think they need to be asking what our needs are. I was invited to speak at a big industry event about this, and it was, I don't know, I had 20 people come up to me after, like, man, we needed to hear that, because there is a disconnect. Like, we're the people that open the box. We're the people that are gonna, install this in our shops. You need to be talking to us about what our customer, right? It starts with our customers. What are they asking of us? And then we need to be asking them. But I feel like too much of it is, hey, this is what you need, and without really knowing what we need. So
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah,
Eric.
yeah, I agree. Early on in this session here, we were talking about find out what your customer needs, try to meet all of our customer needs, and they walk in the door. We try to know ahead of time already, who's coming in, and we've done our little bit of background, and everybody's treats them like, the king that they are, or queen that they are. But that's the last thing that seems to happen with tool manufacturers or scan tool manufacturers, any of them. They're just, here's what our tool will do, live with it.
yeah,
Well, what the what the hell's that all about? That's not. This is what I need to have happen, or your tool. And this happens a lot in scan tools. And there's a company going through problems right now, but that it used to do what I wanted it to do, and then it got an update or something changed, and now it doesn't do it. But no one told us this. You had to find it out the hard way, that you can't fix Mrs. Jones's car today because the damn tool won't do what it did a year ago. So I think there's a big problem with that. To your point, here's what we got, use it. Well, that wouldn't we'd be out of business if we treated our customers that came in the front door like that, and rightfully
right.
so. If we don't
Yep.
care.
Yep. So I got one more bonus question, just real quick. Have any of you ever decided to hold off on investing in new technology that seemed really promising? And what factors influenced that decision?
Yes, Tesla. Yeah. It was with us. It was Tesla. We've we I was real close to pulling the trigger on the toolbox and all of that. And we work on Teslas. We just don't work on a lot of them. And we've really tried. It's been a tough slog, to the point where it's not I'm disillusioned, but I'm kind of glad that I held back on buying the shiny thing that it needed, because it just hasn't panned out near like I thought it was going to.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm holding off on anything real Tesla heavy right now as well. I just look
Same.
at, my office oversees the freeway, and I just look at the type of cars, and more and more Teslas, but it's still not like every other car, right? I see, man, there's a lot of vehicles still out there to fix that aren't going to be as a pain in the butt as Tesla are right now, right? But I think they're going to realize they're going to upset a lot of people that are waiting 6 months to get their car serviced. They're going to have to play nice with the independents and let us make money on them, labor rate and parts, and tools and equipment. But I think it's an uphill battle right now.
Yeah, same thing for us. It's the EV space is what we've been holding back on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. ADAS I'm seeing as well. A lot of people jumped in early, and then, everybody's like, wow, people are making money. Let me do it too. And all of a sudden we're starting to see the money going down, and the hassle going up, and the insurance companies aren't paying like they used to. So I think this is a really great question for just that reason, right? Um, how much do you think FOMO right? Fear of missing out plays into that decision.
Oh, for shop owners, it definitely does. I mean, because like you said, the people that jumped into ADAS, building ADAS centers, um, something where you have to really do it in scale to make that work. That we didn't go into ADAS just because we didn't see the call for it. Most of the cars that needed that kind of service were going to a body shop anyway. They weren't coming to us for normal maintenance and repair. So yeah, I was followed it very closely, but didn't jump into it. The other thing, I was also kind of like, when are these cars going to get sophisticated enough to just align to just recalibrate themselves?
That's
You
what
know, yeah,
that was my big, you'd heard that years ago that they're going to get smart enough, they're going to do it, and they won't even need these shops. And I thought, I'm glad we held off, because now I'm not getting into it at all.
yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, I want to say thank you. I really appreciate this hour just blew by. Greg, Eric, Andy, thank you so much for being here. Kelly, thank you for the opportunity. If you're at Apex, please look us up. Okay. Um, I would love to have you in one of our classes. Greg, are you teaching there?
Yep, teaching 2 classes.
So yeah. And for the first time, I'm doing a full day class, I think, at Apex. So that'll
Wow.
be fun to see what happens. So
Great.
everybody, take care. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you, Kelly.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. As a reminder, this webinar is recorded and will be on apexshow.com. And on behalf of Apex, gentlemen, thank you so much. I actually felt bad intruding on this conversation because it was so great. So thank you all. Safe travels to everyone going to Apex, and have a wonderful day.
Awesome.
Thanks.
See you
You too.
later.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.